Hi there, this is Aditya Kharadkar and welcome to the Brainstorm Codings. In the last video, I told you about the various data types we have in Golang. In this video, I'm going to teach you about the variables and constants in Golang. So let's start with variables. So a variable is a placeholder for the information which can be changed at runtime. So let's take an example. Assume that you have written a code in Golang of a calculator, and this code takes two inputs from the user and performs an operation. Now, it's impossible that each user will enter the same values. So you need something in your code which will temporarily store the values entered by the user and then perform the operation. So here variables come into role. We can store the values in variables and then we can perform operations on the values stored in the variables. And we can even retrieve and manipulate the information stored in the variable. And we have the same rules for naming the variable just like we have for the identifiers. So we have seen that this is the one identifier we have in our code. uh, this is another identifier we have, and we can call the variable name as an identifier. So we have the same rules for naming the variables just like we have for identifiers. The rules are like we can start the name of the variable with a digit. We can use either an underscore or any of the letters we have, and we can't even use keywords as a variable name. And the variable name is case sensitive, and there is no limit on the length of the variable name, but we should choose the length between 4 and 15 letters only. So let's see how we declare the variables in Golang. Well, there are two ways in which we can declare the variables. The one is by using the var keyword, and another is without using the var keyword. So let's see first how we declare the variables using the var keyword. So let me declare the variable here. First we take this var keyword, then we define the variable name. In our case it will be channel name. Then we define the data type we are using for this variable. So this will be a string. Then we take this assignment operator and we assign the value to the variable. So here this is the var keyword we use for declaring the variables. This is the variable name by which we can identify the variable. This is the data type we are using for the variable. This is the assignment operator, and this is the value we have assigned to the variable. So this is the syntax for the variable declaration. And actually we can even avoid using the data type in syntax. We can even declare the variables without defining this data type. I'll show you how we can do that. So instead of mentioning this data type, just delete this one, and we can even access this variable, and the compiler will get to know by looking at the value we have assigned that this variable belongs to the string data type. So let's try to access this. Use this print line function from fmt package and use this channel name we have. Run the code. We have got the value Brainstorm Codings. So you can see that we don't even need to mention the data type. The compiler gets to know by looking at the value we have assigned. And we can even just avoid using this assignment operator and the value. So we can even just declare the variable first and then we can initialize the variable later. Let me show you how we can do that. But this time we have to take the data type. So either you can avoid using the data type or you can avoid using the assignment operator and the value. You can't do both at the same time. So we have declared this variable channel name. Now let me initialize the variable. Use the assignment operator, and I'm sorry, this will throw an error. I ran the program by mistake. This is the value we have assigned. Now the variable is declared first without initializing it at the same time on the same line, and then we have initialized the variable later after declaration. Now try to run this program. Yeah, we get again the brainstorm codings. Now let's see what happens if you don't initialize the variable. Now run the program. You get this line, you can see that this is the empty string we are getting here. So if you don't initialize the variable, this the compiler will just give you the empty string. Now let's see if we do the same for the integer data type. Let's run the program, and we are getting the 0 as we haven't initialized the variable. And we can also declare and initialize multiple variables of the same data type on the same line. So if you want, if you have different, if you have multiple variables, and if you want uh, to declare and initialize them on the same line, you can do that. Let's take a, b, and c. We are taking three variables of the same data type, which is integer, and now we are initializing them. Let's take 12, 34, 56. Now this value 12 is stored in the variable a. This b variable will hold the value 34, and the c variable will hold the value 56. Now let's access this variable separately. Try to access b, then c. Now run the code, and you can see that we first tried to access the variable a, and we got this 12 as the variable a holds the value 12. Then we are accessing b, and then we are accessing c, so we are getting 34 and 56 respectively. And it's not necessary that to declare the variables of the same data type. We can even declare variables of different data types, and you can do this by avoiding the use of this data type in the variable declaration. So now we are not declaring the data type, so let's assign 23.456 to the variable b, and let's take a string for the variable c. Run the code, and yeah, we're getting this as the value 12 is stored in the variable a. We are getting this here. The 23.56, this value is stored in the variable b, which is a floating point number. This is a string Aditya, which is stored in this variable c. So we don't even need to declare the variables of same data type on the same line. And we even have another way of declaring the variables, which is without using this var keyword. In this method we don't use the var keyword. This method is known as the short variable declaration. Let me show you how we declare variables in this method. So this is the variable name a I'm using. This is the colon we are using right now. This is the assignment operator, and we use both of them together. Don't try to separate them with a space, with a blank space, sorry, with a white space. Use them together always when you're using this short variable declaration. And I'm using this 22 value. So this is the variable name we are using. This is we are using this for declaring the variable. This is the short declaration, and this is the value we are assigning to this variable a. Let's try to access this variable. Run the code. We're getting 22 here, and you can see the compiler without, we haven't declared the data type. We have defined the data type of this variable. Still, the compiler gets to know which data type this variable belongs, and compiler is not throwing any error. So if you want to see the data type of this variable, we can use this printf function. The data type of the variable is percent capital T. You can say the data type of the variable is int. So the compiler is automatically giving us the data type of this variable. So we don't even need to define the data type, or even we don't even need to use the var keyword. So this is, I think, the most I use this method the most while coding in Golang. And just don't confuse yourself with this declaration and with the assignment operator. They both are not the same. This is the declaration and this is the assignment. So don't confuse yourself with the both of them. And this short variable declaration method is best for declaring the local variables. When you just want to declare the variable without initializing them, then you should go for the other way, using the var keyword. And you can even declare multiple variables of the same type and initialize them on the same line, just like we did by using the var keyword. Let's declare again a, b, and c, and let's give them the values of the same data type, 22, 33, and 44. Access these variables. And the last one is b. Alright, run the code. Now you can see we are getting 22 for the variable a, 44 for the variable c, and 33 for the variable b. And we can even declare the variables of different data types as well, just like we did with the var keyword. This is an value 45.23, and assign this Aditya to variable c. Now run the code, and the code is running fine. We are getting the output where the variable a holds the value 22, variable c holds the value Aditya, and variable b is holding the value 45.23. And I want to show you something which I talked about in a couple of videos ago. If you declare the variable and if you don't use that variable, if you don't access that variable, then you will get the compile time error. And let's see what do I mean by that. I have declared these three variables, but I'm not accessing this variable. So I'll try to run the code, and I will have these three errors: that A declared but not used, B declared but not used, again C declared but not used. So if you're coding in Golang, then it's necessary for you to access those variables you have declared before. So if you don't want to access any variable, then you shouldn't be declaring the variable. So make sure if you have declared the variable, uh, use that variable, otherwise you will get that compile time error. Um, Now let's try to declare the multiple variables on the same line and then change the value of the variable. So if you try to declare a single variable, I'm giving this value 23, and if you try to change the value of this variable again 45 and then access this variable, run the code, let's see what we get. no new variables on the left side of this declaration. So the compiler is saying that you already declared the variable, so you can't declare this variable again. So if you have declared the variable for once, then you can't declare the same variable again. And let's try to do this the same thing by declaring multiple variables. Now see here, I have given the value 23 to the variable a, and let's and here in the second declaration I'm giving this value 22 to the variable a. So now I'm changing the value from 23 to 20 for 22 for the variable a, and the value of variable b is same. So let's try to access the variable and run the code. Again, this is saying that no new variables on the left side of the declaration. So we can see that we can't even change the variable name we have declared before. Let's try to change the value of b this time. Run the code, and again we can't change the value. So always remember, when if you have declared the variable, you can't change the value of that variable again. And I think that's all for the variables. I have told you about both the methods in which we can declare the variables with using the var keyword and without using the var keyword. I think this is the really short method in which we can declare the variables. We don't even need to mention the data type, and yeah, we don't even need to use the var keyword. So let's get to the constants. So just like we have this var keyword for declaring the variables, for declaring the constants we have the const keyword. So this is the keyword we use for declaring the constants, and let's take this constant name. This is the name of the constant. Assign a value to it, Aditya Karatkar, which is my name, and access this variable. You can see this, it's showing us Aditya Karatkar, which is a constant. Now let's try to change the value of this constant. And then access this constant again. So you can see we are getting this error, cannot assign to name declared constant. So obviously, as the constant implies, we if something is constant, we can change that value. So it's really better to have a constant when we know in our program that we are not going to need to change the value of that constant. So the constant is going to be useful for that purpose when you know that you're not going to change the value again. So I think that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.